But the attrition rate, I've noticed just anecdotally, when I was at Google, the attrition rate was high for everyone. Google turns people over very, very fast. But if you look at specifically the people of color, they're turning over even faster than the group as a whole. I was in the Black Googler Network, which is an affinity group, a resource group. And it felt like at least once a week I would get an email from someone, a goodbye email from someone. And a lot of the times I didn't get an introduction email to balance that out. So sometimes you would see the population would be decreasing because they would be hiring 10 people and losing 12 every single day. And that's not good at all.
And that was like a norm, basically.
Yes.
Now let's talk about this fact now. It cost them $16 billion per year. And I read about that in this article that I got all these awesome facts from Tech Republic, as I mentioned earlier. Now, what happened is when they found out the statistic, it was just not only that turnover that you're talking about, but how much it cost them to rehire new people costs them more. You have these agencies looking for people, and you might have to pay them more. I don't know, depending on what they want and demand, etc. So like it's hurting them in the pockets, and that still doesn't seem to be enough, right? I mean, am I wrong here? I mean, it's silly. And I guess it goes back to adding diversity to the leadership. Like, hey, we actually got some good people. Let's train them better, or let's invest in our people versus investing in trying to find other people. You know what I mean? I mean, that's a lot of money.
It's crazy because you hear about, especially starting probably around the time that I moved to the Bay Area, you started, hearing all these diversity reports. Oh, this company has 2% and stuff. So we have 2%. We're gonna dedicate $60 million to change this number, increase our number of black employees. 4 years later, we have 2%. So many times, anything else they put money behind, things change, right? Yeah. So why is this not changing? Yeah. Where is this money going? If you're putting $60 million behind it, $60 million just doesn't disappear. And no company, no matter how flush with cash they are, here spend $60 million for no results.
Yeah, think about that. If you had a company, you had investors, right? It's public. It went public, right? You lost $16 billion a year. You better be making like $2 trillion a year to be losing $16 billion, and then to justify that. That's crazy, isn't it?
It makes no sense.
And it makes no business or logical sense at all.
And another thing we've thrown the phrase around, the business case for diversity, and that drives me crazy. I remember a long time ago I had a conversation with my dad about this, and he mentioned someone had asked him one time about the business case for diversity, and he was like, Why is there a business case for diversity? Why don't you show me the business case for homogeneity so we can prove to me that it's better to have everyone be the same? Why do we have to prove to you that it's better to be diverse?
Ironically, I was listening to KGO yesterday, and a talk show host said it might be easier to talk to Trump in his terms, and he speaks in money. And if you somehow find an argument, this is a hyperbole because nothing gets through that guy, right? But he was like, hey, maybe if we talk to him in terms of, hey, it's good to take care of the environment because you can earn more money, right? It'll build more jobs, you'll look better. And he spoke to him in that generality in terms of money, that he might get their point across instead of just saying, oh, it's good for the earth, tree hugging, you know what I mean? That sounds like as if you're talking to somebody who relates in that concept. But we're dealing with, again, obviously they don't relate in that concept. Does that make sense?
Right, it's aspirational.
It's aspirational. If we were talking to each other, it's different because we can get that. When you said about the app, that suggestion about the menstrual cycle, I was like, fuck yeah, that makes so much sense. Why not? Conversation is very short. Does that make sense? Yeah, add it, code it, let's do it. Okay. But unfortunately, the other person on the other side of the table has to kind of meet you halfway. Even didn't Jesus say you have to like take one step toward me, like at least one step, like give me something? Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, you're not giving much. 16 billion's leaving the industry. How many startups can that fund?
Oh,
right?
oh my God. Numerous.
And they're doing it, and like you said, 1 year was 2%, and a few years later, it's still 2%. So obviously, they're okay with losing $16 billion.
That's crazy.
Fact number 5, and we will be done. And I can't believe how much conversation we've done today. Number 5, diversity efforts could net the IT industry an extra $500 billion in revenue. Oh my God, that's freaking crazy. So not only is the lack of diversity in IT killing them $16 billion, but facts have proven that if you actually add honest diversity, like you mentioned, Lauren, that simple suggestion could give them 400 billion more a year. You wouldn't even see the 16 billion.
It's ridiculous, you know? Because if you look at marketing and stuff now, think about every commercial you see, and it's such a seismic shift from like when I was younger and stuff like that. Almost everything in marketing now is backed by hip hop.
I know.
If you look at it, you know,
hip hop just became the number one genre in music as far as sales.
Yeah.
Over rock and roll, finally. Like that's revolutionary. Unfortunately, a lot of the rap isn't what I agree with, but nonetheless, our music has become number one in influence. You're right.
that music, and it's I guess it's symbiotic as far as the music and the culture behind the music, and that's become so popular. And then what companies do, and they take it and monetize out marketing. But
Scion commercial with their car and the little rats.
Oh man!
And it's a hip hop. They're doing breakdancing and whatnot. You thought it was Run DMC, right?
And then, but then the way you can tell that people who are not part of the culture do it is they then use stuff out of context.
Totally.
Like there was an article that people were criticizing that was floating around on Twitter today talking about the word washed.
Oh,
it was like, oh, washed is just another way to say you're cool. No, it's not. Washed means I'm old. Washed means that I ain't gonna go to the club right now because I'm tired.
Yeah.
Because I'm 30.
Yeah.
So like,
well, then you know if you're tired, brother, I'm about to fade away to the horizon. Okay, 38, I'm done.
Right. So there's like, oh, wash is another way of saying no. You're completely out of context. So that lets me know that you are not even plugged in to the culture that you're co-opting
or attempting.
Yeah. So
you're assuming,
right? So you're assuming completely wrong. So, you know, just those different marketing channels, because the marketing is, I mean, you're obviously marketing a product in some way. So if your marketing is off base, your product might be off base.
Has become pop culture, but you need like a black advisor to your blackness. Like,
or just
does that
like
make
people.
sense? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, or we
like,
could just
include us, because then we could kind of like help you keep it real.
Yeah.
Okay, because you're keeping it real.
Or just like put us in, let us, you know, us getting in positions just to even make those decisions. Because again, you know, you brought up like the H&M thing, but again, it could be the outrage marketing.
It could be the outrage. I
up.
guess, you know, that you know, I have questions, but look at Blackish. I love Blackish. First of all, let's just put that out there. But he's in a position. Remember, the first episode was he got promoted to a VP of urban, right? Yeah. Urban development or something like that. That was such a great commercial. I mean, a great episode about his experience.
Right.
But then all the questions of black was up to him to answer. Remember, like he's like, well, now I'm supposed to have all the answers, right? And that was really interesting. But that's kind of like, okay, fine, we get that what you just said, but then I don't know. It's like weird because they still get all the assumptions, even when he's VP in seasons to come. He's still answering the black questions.
Yeah. Hey, God, I hate that's one that like particularly burns me up. It's the urban, because a blog that I love and has been reading for years is VSB, Very Smart Brothers, and they just had an article to come out about 30 ways white people say black without saying black, and urban was one of the words. And I was like, if you bark at something to me in particular and call it urban, you're going to completely miss me, because I grew up in Podunk, Mississippi. I'm not.
Totally. There's no urban, no skyscraper, nothing.
I'm in no way urban. So you're going to completely miss me. So just by saying
I
urban
think
is a
that-
catch-all for black people,
Yeah.
terrible.
I think that came from, I don't know, white flight when they moved out of the city to the suburbs and left us in the urbs. Does that make sense? I don't know where it came from, quite honestly. You got to ask them. But for me,
Say a
I
nice word for ghetto or a nice word for hood.
Yep.
totally, or when they say ghetto, like, oh, that's ghetto, that means it's black. You know, like, I know, like, you're not fooling anybody, people out there. Okay. And, she asked ghetto. It's like, what's ghetto? Ghetto was a term in Warsaw, Poland, applied to Jews when Nazis caged them and contained them in neighborhoods for death, basically, starvation and otherwise. But now all of a sudden it's our word.
Yeah, but
Like, what's up with that?
it's our word to an extent, but it's cool when they co-opt things from it. Like when you have like cornrows or something like that.
Oh, the characteristics of ghetto.
Exactly. You know, whenever, you know, brothers begin getting designs cut in their head for decades, but then you like, oh, somebody gets a design cut in back. Oh, it's a hair tattoo. No, it's not called a hair tattoo. Nobody.
Somebody
calls it
said that?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Nobody calls it
A
that.
hair tattoo, because it stays there forever, right?
Oh,
Not like-
apparently so. I guess hair never grows back once the design.
Hair never grows
I would
back.
still have like a Nike sign apparently still in my head.
Nike sign.
from when
Yeah,
was
I would have a
6.
Mercedes, because that was the 80s and 90s, like Mercedes, everything was a thing. Anyway,
Oh, have you heard of boxer braids? I'm like, okay, well.
The Bo Derek braids. So
Oh,
what they
gosh.
call them?
Yeah,
Like
just ridiculous.
cool.
wow, okay, and that goes to, man, if they,
the
well,
the Kardashian braid.
That's the worst.
what?
The Kardashian
When
braids.
they had just braids to the back that any
Those were hers all of a sudden.
Yeah.
She made them up.
made them had never been done before.
Nope.
Until Kim done them.
Okay, that is a whole nother conversation. But I mean, let's just talk capitalism, because they love the you know, this the executives, not 83% of white folks, right? White people love capitalism. They love making money. But even this fact of adding diversity can add $400 billion to revenue, and that still doesn't seem to get across. $16 billion losing every year doesn't get across. So I guess it kind of goes back to, like what we were saying earlier, we mentioned a few times, like, how do we maybe take some of this effort and invest in ourselves? And I know you're going to St. Croix, and that's amazing. I think that's so dope. What can we do to make tech cool? I guess I want to kind of like conclude in saying, how can we make it as cool as dribbling a basketball, where like, hey man, I want to go through my adolescence dribbling code. Does that make sense? Or being intellectual? Because a lot of times my experience was intellectual was threatening in our own community. It was like, oh, you think you're better, or you're too good. Maybe, you know, maybe I don't know, maybe it's because many times when we do that, we never look back.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And you assimilate into those neighborhoods where it's not really us, and we just don't look back. Does that make sense? Maybe it came from that. I don't know, but how can we make tech cool? Because that's the only way it's going to happen.
Yeah. I think
Facebook ain't cool. They ain't on it. They're on
Right.
Instagram. Instagram's cool.
yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think it ties into two of the things we've already talked about before. And one kind of being, you know, capitalism, because if nothing else, you know, and for better or worse, our community is definitely can definitely be more materialistic sometimes than we should be. But a lot of times we can point to, hey, this is an avenue where you can make a good living, where you can make really, really good money. And, you know,
How do we connect that? How do we connect somebody or a segment of people who, first of all, live in an area where you don't see tons of opportunity
yeah,
or mobility, right? Doors being presented, not just being able to knock on them, but being presented.
right.
And then saying, hey man, you can make shit 6 figures coming out of college.
Yeah.
Now, let's be honest with ourselves here. Let's be honest. In other communities, they're telling those kids that from like day one. I've read Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? I think he's Hawaiian. I'm not sure if he's Japanese or Hawaiian. Robert Kiyosaki,
Yeah.
right? I'm not going to assume, but he said that was the profound thing. The rich dad was telling his kids from day one, this is how you run a business. And the poor dad, wasn't that he was poor, but he had a poor mentality, and he wouldn't tell his son,